Hello, and welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents. Today, I'm talking with Valerie Biel, the author of award-winning YA fiction, The Circle of Nine, Beltany. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tracy. I appreciate it. It's fun to talk about books. And I might say it's even more fun to talk about your own books sometimes.
Yes. So the book opens with Bridget Quinn celebrating her 15th birthday. Tell us about this.
So what's interesting is that, and this I think happens to lots of writers, my first chapter that I originally wrote was not this first chapter. I had started with the historical portions of this book, and I'd written several chapters that way. And then I decided that I really wanted to write a mix of a contemporary story with historical stories. So I ended up making the story start on her 15th birthday, which is an essential time in the girls and women in my book in their lives. Uh, the inheritance that they receive, they do not learn about until their 15th birthday. So on at 12:01 on her birthday, her mom comes to her room and gives her this very thick old leather bound book of family history that she needs to read, and it's all the pertinent stories from her ancestors past, so that they each female ancestor has put a story in this book that they want their descendants to know about. So it's a lot of information she gets right at the in the wee hours of the morning, shall we say.
Yeah, well, and there's a question about whether or not she would be able to read it, right?
Right. So you have to be worthy. So this is an enchanted or a spellbound book, if you will. And so what happens is the stories play out for each person like a movie, but there is sort of a spell that the person reads. And if you're worthy, then the book shows you the story. So, I like having magical elements in my books. So
I love reading about magic too. So Bridget Quinn is the main character and she's 15. What do you like best about her?
Well, she's tenacious, but she's very real. I wanted someone who felt like a contemporary teen. While I was writing this, my kids range in age from middle grade to high school, so it was helpful to have kids in the house at that time when I was writing, about contemporary teens. And she's tenacious, but she's real, and she's grown up in a small town where, because her mom practices this pagan religion very openly, she's been sort of the object of ridicule, right? So her desire has really been just normalcy. So whenever she's, wishing for something, she just wants to be normal. So this is an odd inheritance for her to digest, right? She's not really sure she wants any of this. And that's really the crux of the book, is whether she's going to accept this inheritance, and what would she do with it if she were to accept it.
Right, because she doesn't know she has magical powers either.
No, and as you know, because you've read the story, initially, as these things start to appear in her life, we don't want to give too much away. No, not too many spoilers, right? She's a little scared, and she's not altogether sure she's sane, because she's starting to hear voices, and she's just very nervous about it. And she doesn't immediately talk to her mom about it. Of course, her mom could have cleared everything up, but she doesn't immediately talk to her mom about it. So,
Right.
so yeah, it was fun to write those elements. The crazy things that were happening, if you're starting to hear what other people are thinking. Yeah, that's not probably the best thing always.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, so you already said the book circles around traditional witchcraft or
Yeah,
paganism.
yeah.
And so tell me, how much research did you need to do for this book?
Do you know, I'm going to show you this stack. This is just a partial stack of the books these are the books I own. So I live in a really small town, which is why I kind of like to write about the things that happen in small towns.
Mhm.
You would have been, it would have been fun for other people to see the looks on the faces of my librarians as I started to request all these books and they were coming in on witchcraft. I grew up Catholic. I'm Catholic, but I grew up on a farm, and I was very fascinated with the pre-Christian, holidays where it's a circle. It's an eightfold circle of the year where there's 8 holidays, and they center around the seasons and the equinoxes and the solstices, and a lot of the celebration or the hopes or the wishes are about the growing season, and it's all about really survival and agriculture. So I was very fascinated with the pre-Christian Celtic world or the Irish world, and that's really the basis of my story. So what I did is I took all of those belief systems and I made my modern day characters still adherent to that. They still follow all of those. So it's called the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So right now we just celebrated Samhain. That's spelled Samhain. So it looks like Samhain, but it's Samhain. It's the precursor to our modern day Halloween. It is, however, the new year in the Celtic Wheel of the Year, or the pagan world. So I'm just fascinated with it. I will have to tell you though that some of my very, very religious friends did not want to read my book, and they didn't let their kids read my book either. That's
Oh,
fine.
wow.
That's
Oh,
fine.
wow.
But it definitely has, it explores that side of the world a little bit, and really our ties to nature. So that's really what this sort of paganism is our ties to nature, and it's not like scary witchy stuff
Right.
the way that it might get framed by people who are nervous about it.
Right.
But I'm not
Yes,
a witch. I'm not a witch.
you're not, but you know enough about it to cast a spell, I
And
suppose.
and I appreciate it because maybe it is my farm background, but I appreciate very much the care of nature and the care for nature. So in our planet and our world, so that tugged at my interest area and my heart a little bit, which is why I made it a central theme in my story. Plus, I do really like stories about witches. They make a point in my book, like the mom, and you remember these scenes where she says, we don't call ourselves that. We aren't witches. And they're descendants of one of the mythological founding tribes of Ireland. It's the two, it's when I pronounce it like phonetically, Tuatha De Danann. If you were to pronounce it in Gaelic, it would be Tua. They don't pronounce the TH. Tua De Danann. And these are the ancestors, descendants of the goddess Danu, Danu. So I took a lot of cues from Celtic mythology.
Mhm.
So that's
That's
fun reading too. I mean, I think that a lot of people enjoy those sort of mythological stories.
Oh, I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So you mentioned the Circle of the Year.
Yes.
Tell us about the title of the book, The Circle of Nine.
So the circle of nine is 9 women who have inherited their positions. It's a matriarchal inheritance. So the oldest daughter inherits the position in the circle. The circle of nine, their job is to protect the ancient monuments of Ireland, the stone circles, the different portal tombs, and they try to keep their traditions alive all the way into modern times. So that's the basis of it. But it's a strong group of 9 women inheriting this position. And as they turn 15, they learn about this actual inheritance and start to train really for their eventual position in the circle of nine. Beltany is the subtitle of this first book. Beltany, and you can see the stone circle on that book back there. Beltany is an actual stone circle in County Donegal, Ireland. County Donegal is the far northwest county in Ireland. It's almost cut off by Northern Ireland, the access from the Republic of Ireland. It is part of the Republic of Ireland. It's typically off the beaten path from most tours. I've been to Ireland very many times, like 11, 12 times now.
Oh,
And County Donegal is really just a gem. It's one of my favorite places. So Beltany Stone Circle's there, but a good amount of scenes from my books are set in that county.
yeah, that's great that you've been able to travel there so much. Um,
My account, I should tell you, my accountant lets me write those trips off as research trips.
Sweet. I love
Very
that.
sweet, very sweet.
So what other kinds of research do you do?
Well, so actually travel is great
Yeah,
because, you know, you can write about places you haven't been. You can certainly do that. The internet lets us do that.
yeah. But
The,
being there
the
gives
being
you
there and
a completely different
don't you
picture.
think in your
Yes.
writing too?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
the air, the smell, what it really looks like, in person.
Hmm.
It is that green. It's crazy green. And it's just gorgeous. And, for instance, the cover of my third book, Sacred Treasures, we walked up to that book is based off, that cover is based off an actual picture I took. But, you walk out there and you're walking through the boggy, peat, and it's, your shoes are getting wet, and it smells like the air smells like wet, and little heavy and like earth, right? And there's just something about it that it's makes it so much better to write when you've experienced it.
Well, you can
So
convey those other senses that you can't convey just from looking at stuff online,
right,
right?
right. I mean,
So
I mean, given the fact that we're kind of stuck right now, we're
yeah,
in the middle of this pandemic. Though the other day, there was a sale. Aer Lingus is the like kind of national airline of Ireland. They had a huge sale, and just for buoying up our spirits, we booked a trip next year. Now, will we have to move this trip? We may, but we we booked the trip. Back to Ireland we go.
that sounds great. It gives me the I want to book a trip now.
Well, there's something about it. It's a little depressing. I mean, I've always worked from home and my husband works from home frequently. So this hasn't been like tragic or really, really difficult for us. But there's other things that make it hard. We're used to doing more. And
Right,
so, I mean, we're all kind of in that same boat in different ways. But to be honest, I shouldn't complain about this much. My life and my work hasn't changed that much.
right. I know I'm in the same place, but then you do feel like you need to escape and get out or do
Yes,
something. Yeah. So,
anything.
yeah. Um, so do you write what you want to know? Would you say?
In a way, I think we draw from our experiences no matter what we're writing. Maybe people in my past have informed certain characters, maybe experiences from my past. I mean, certainly they've informed certain things. I write how they always say, write the book you want to read. That's what I did. I wrote the book I wanted to read. I was inspired by the stone circle in Ireland. And then, you start to ask those kind of what if questions. I
Yeah,
started to dig into the archaeological history, which, there's not a ton you can know about that. And then, I went to mythology, and it all just sort of combined with my interest area. And so I had a passion for the topic. And I think that that's key. If you have a passion for the topic, doesn't
right.
matter what kind of writing you're doing, you need to. Writing's hard. You better have a passion for the topic you're writing about.
Exactly. So I know there's also a bunch of recipes in this book, and
Yes, yes.
I was hoping that you're going to eventually write a cookbook with the recipes in it.
Well, and I should. I think that's always been something that I thought about. So eventually, yes, maybe there will be a recipe book in the future. I was telling you a little bit before that the book is featured in a recipe book. So there's one recipe from the first book that's in this collection of recipes. The Indie Brag folks put this out, which is wonderful. But yeah, there are a lot of recipes in there, and
Yeah.
there's so many good Irish recipes too. The
Yeah.
thing is, um, I, I'm an adequate cook, but I'm not an excellent cook. So I may need to have a collaborator on this project, someone
Yeah,
who really knows their way around Irish cooking.
yeah. Well, Circle of Nine is a series. So
Yes.
go ahead and tell us about the rest of the books in the series.
So, I don't know how it was for you, Tracy, when you started writing your first book. I didn't tell really anyone outside my immediate family I was writing a book. Didn't know if I could finish, right? I wasn't sure it was going to be any good or worthy of publication or what have you, right? So I never envisioned a series when I started. I thought it would be a standalone book, and it was more of a test of whether I could do it or not. So I realized though that as I finished the first book, that it was very, very much at least going to be a 2-book series, if not more. So what happened then is I started to formulate book 3 in my mind, but I was having trouble deciding which direction to go. So, I mean, I was really thinking about book 2. And what happened is some of my readers came to me, and we'll see if you feel the same way, because you've read book 1, but not book 2, right?
Right.
Okay. So some of my readers came to me and they said, wait a second, we want to know more about those historical characters. And I said, oh, I know all about those people. Like I have their whole story in my head.
Right.
So I went, so this is where book 2 was born, the novella collection. So to be very, very honest, it was sort of an exercise to get me back into this world so that I could write a really good book 3. But if you were reading these stories, you could go from book 1 to book 3. You could skip book 2. Anything essential in book 2, I made sure to put in book 3 as backstory so that you would know it. So it's not. I like it because I like those historical ladies a lot. Strong women, really interesting stories from different times. We go back into the 1300s. Then we are in, I want to say, the Dervla stories in the mid 1400s, and then we pop into the life of the grandmother of the modern day character, my main character in the book 1 and 3. And so we see her life, and the key story expanded from what we learned from the little bit that her granddaughter got to see in that enchanted book, right?
Yeah.
And that was fun to write because it's set in August of 60, wait, 9. It's when Woodstock took place. Was that
Right.
69?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously, I was very, very young in 69, and so it was fun to research this. They don't go to Woodstock, but Woodstock is referenced. So I had a lot of fun with the whole like kind of hippie era a little bit,
Yeah.
and
That's great.
obviously it's something that I had to research. Did not know about that firsthand.
Well,
But
yeah, this is great. And I highly recommend your books. I think kids that liked Harry Potter and adults too would also like these books. Um, and I'm looking forward to, you have another one coming out soon?
No, well, okay. So my writing career has been a little bit diverse, shall we say. So I'm outlining a second trilogy with the basis being some of the same characters. And I'm trying to decide, and I think I'm going to do the same pattern, full novel, novella collection, full novel. And so we're going
Uh-huh.
to reprise some of the roles. Bridget's going to be there. I'm not giving anything away, but her other family members, which we meet along the way, will also be there. And then we're going to go back in time and learn more. That will be what the novella collection is. Will be a jump back in time to learn more about some of the characters that matter to the modern day storyline.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, I write also middle grade. So I have a middle grade adventure series that's in the works. I've got 2 books done there. As I researched that, I realized there was a gap in the nonfiction market for middle grade. So I have a nonfiction book proposal that my agent has on submission right now.
Wow.
And this week, I am deep in the, I don't even know what round of edits for a middle grade standalone novel that deals with the really tough issue of domestic abuse through the eyes of an 11-year-old girl. And that is a project that's so near and dear to my heart. And my little character, she needs to find a home. So I'm doing these edits and hoping that my agent can find a home for that book. So.
Oh, great. Well, congratulations on all that. And yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. I'll be looking forward for the next trilogy coming out. But thanks so much for coming to talk with me today. And everybody, you can have more conversation with Valerie on blackbirdwriters.com. And I look forward to seeing you all there.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun to talk about my books today.
Thank you, Valerie.